dropped here at Daytona, and away we go for the first time. Nicholas Morcel, Sean.
Looks like most get through unscathed. Look at that, there's Reed Gibson. A big move at the inside line of Dom's, possibly a little bit of contact.
Now, as we've got three wide action going through turns 1 and 2.
And they're underway. Eric Hahn takes a nice jump. Wilson hasn't let him go very far.
I'd like to go out here for Circuit to Spa Francorchamps. Alex Johnson's off to a brilliant start there.
Just how oddly shaped this one is. We saw in the background Eric Hahn go for a bit of a swing, and he's gone and he's over.
Move stuff. Cody Graham's the one-on-one up into second place. Alex Johnson 6/10 lead at the moment.
They're dicey up front. There's Andrew Kessel, Justin Sang.
They are ready to go. The lights are out, and away we go for the very first time here at Okayama International Circuit. Finley Fitzsimmons.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to the Detroit SCCA Sim Series, bridging the gap between virtual and track racing. We are out here at VIR Virginia International Raceway for another great round. As always, I'm your host, James East, with Team Goon Squad Broadcasting, bringing the action 1080p 60 frames a second, and I'm accompanied by world-famous Alex Della Torre joining me in the booth for this one. Alex, say hello to the fans and introduce yourself.
What's going on, everybody? James, thanks again for inviting me to be on board today. You know, it's good to have a little bit of a breather and not be struggling to keep up with some of these just blazing fast drivers. You know, it's the field is inverted when we're at the track at Waterford Hills, but man, I tell you, here in the virtual world, it's a whole different ball game for me. So, yeah, introduction for myself, regional executive for the Detroit Region Sports Car Club of America, and where we've been around since 1948. This year we're hosting over 40 events, everywhere from hill climbs to autocrosses to rallycrosses, the Detroit Grand Prix, you know, 5 different road races, 2 of them at Waterford Hills as well. So if you don't come out and participate in motorsports in Detroit, that's because you're sleeping in. And if I may take a second to thank our sponsors, Waterford Hills for one, 1.5 mile road course with 13 corners and some pretty aggressive elevation changes. We've been around since 1958. We run a 6-weekend series plus a vintage race plus 9 to 10 open track days a year. And something that's very near and dear to me, that's the competition racing school that we do in April that gets you Waterford Hills and or SCCA licensed. So make sure you check out waterfordhills.com. And on top of it all, none of this happens without the turn marshals. So thank you to our Michigan turn marshals. These are the guys that work not only the local races at Waterford Hills, the local regional races throughout the state of Michigan, but the Detroit Grand Prix. And you see these guys at Indy, Daytona, Sebring. You see some of them even over at Le Mans. They go overseas to make sure that they're taking care of the people that are strapping on the helmets and getting behind the wheel. So excited to see, man. I'd like to maybe even place some bets. Who might some of these young kids that are out there racing tonight might make it over to overseas and, you know, become some of the big drivers that I was just talking about.
Yeah, I'd be curious on your prediction. I know Soto, who's on camera right now, the number 50 machine, I've seen him run some open wheel stuff in the past, but if you had to, you know, throw out a few names, who are the other, you know, up and coming hot shots we should keep an eye out on?
Well, first of all, I'm glad that you bring up Russell Soto because he is, you know, he's my right-hand man with this series here. He's taking the time out to set it all up through iRacing, to reach out to you guys over at Goon Squad, you know, to set up the whole Discord, all the different servers and whatnot. So no surprise that he's running well out there. I do know that he's not super familiar with VIR, but he's a quick study. And he knows this platform well. He knows this car well. So I've got him as a top runner. You know, obviously this week we're not seeing you know, Elliot Badinsky out there. I could have swore he'd be out here, you know, running some fast times as well, but maybe this is going to be his bye week. Just a couple of other guys that are dark horses. David Bauer, blazing fast out there as well. Mr. Michael Schmidt, I know he's been practicing and throwing up a whole bunch of practice sessions for everybody this week. But some of the white horses out there, in addition to Russell, are, I'd say, Aaron. He's a dirt track guy that's looking to do the comp school this year at Waterford Hills. And Ryan Carwile, he too is pretty darn fast. Sorry if I didn't mention some of these folks out there, but I gotta say something. Man, I've come to learn that sometimes it's a game of attrition out here. You might be fast as all get up, but if there's a little bit too much bumping and grinding going on out there, yeah, you can take yourself out pretty good.
Yeah, it's very interesting. There's always a difference between hot lapping and then showing actual racecraft. And I've got to say, we're only 3 rounds in, but that's been my favorite part about calling the action here is watching real-life race car drivers transfer over to the sim, and they drive like real-life race car drivers. And what I mean by that is we've called hundreds, if not thousands, of iRacing events where a lot of people have never stepped foot into a real car, and more importantly, have never had to pay to have that car fixed after an exciting moment, either that was their fault or somebody else's. So, and Road Atlanta was a great example. Some of the drivers from Waterford Hills area, talking to them after the show, they go, I was in a good spot, but I didn't feel like I could safely complete that pass. And I think that translates really, really well and leads to really good racing. And you were talking about Ritter. He's in the top spot, that number 27. Soto currently in second. I'm keeping an eye on Ryan Carwile. He was fast early on in quali, currently 4th on the board, but he comes into tonight as our points leader, 6 points up over Keith Derringer. And we've also got Sean Fritz sitting in 3rd. So the top 5 here in points, pretty tight here. Only 18 points separating 1st through 5th right now coming into round 3.
Yeah, and as you bring up a couple different things. First of all, I love this melting pot of sim racers and real life racers. There's a lot of learning between these guys, and I think those top few guys that are up there right now, they're going to have to learn to work with each other, and hopefully they don't start challenging each other too soon, because that's, as we know in real life racing, that's when that back pack, or that mid pack can start catching people, or worse yet, you're not working with each other, you touch and you make a mistake, and all of a sudden you might be out for the entire race. So let's hope that all of them bring in a little bit of that track intelligence and that team mentality where they can at least work with each other for, I'd say, the first 50 to 70% of all the laps that are out there.
Yeah, and VIR has quite a few really fast, wide open sections. These drivers, what I'm seeing in quali, only hitting top speeds of about 130. So much like Road Atlanta in the backstretch we saw last week, I think it's going to be tough for some of these drivers to really break away from their counterparts unless there is a few incidents that maybe will cause a bit of a breakup in the pack. We watched Russell Soto get ready to cross the line here at VIR. His fastest previously was a 2:03.51. Does he improve on that? And I don't. He does. No, it's still a 2:03, so it looks like it was a 2:04.74 last time by. I wonder if he might have had an off track that would invalidate the lap, perhaps.
Yeah, it's funny because Russell and I were talking about this earlier, and as fantastic of a software as iRacing is, sometimes the track limits that they've set, they're borderline not as realistic as what you might be able to get away with at an SCCA weekend, right? Maybe they're a little too strict about them, and it sure is frustrating when you're out there thinking you just threw down a phenomenal track or a phenomenal lap, but you're 2 inches past that margin and they take it away from you. That's a frustrating part about this.
Yeah, sometimes the iRacing gods give it, sometimes they take it away, either with off tracks or with the inevitable net code we've seen in the past. There's Soto once again trying to catch a toe. I believe that was the 56 of Nathan Crosty. He's currently running 17th here in qualifying with a fastest lap of a 2:08.23. But right now, Alex, looks like the top 6 drivers have all gotten into the mid to low 2 minute 3 second lap time. But I mean, right now it looks like most of the field within 3 seconds as far as raw pace, as there's a big moment for Soto grabbing a little bit too much curbing here at VIR, and I can tell you from experience, the curbing pretty aggressive here, very elevated, and has lots of, there's probably a technical term for it, and you probably know it, but they have the divots, 3-4 inch wide divots cut into the concrete that are recessed into those curbing, and a good way to grab a tire and send yourself bouncing off track if you don't hit it just right.
Yeah, you definitely have to know the each and every inch of what's out there, right? That is, we'll give kudos to iRacing on that. They've done a fantastic job of scanning the track and making sure that you're keeping true to what's, where you want to put your tire or where you don't want to put your tire, period. But, to highlight for those listening, and maybe you knew this or you didn't, but for the last 2 years, Virginia International Raceway has been the location of the Sports Car Club of America's National Championship, otherwise known as the Runoffs. So, interestingly enough, in 2022, they had a borderline monsoon going across the Mid-Atlantic section, and it made for some very tough racing. Last year, they hosted once again in October the Runoffs. Things were a little bit drier there, so this for a lot of people is a famous track because it's been so active that a lot of people have been training for to make it to the national championship level. Looks like we're not going to be back to this for a few years at the national championship level, and coincidentally, our schedule, we finish at Road America in a couple of weeks. That's where the Sports Car Club of America will be hosting the national championship in October in 2024 and 2025.
Well, it's a super cool track, great facility. I've been there, I think, twice in my racing career, and super fun course to run. Very flowing in some sections and surprisingly technical in others. So I'm looking forward to seeing how these drivers tackle it here tonight, especially with so many who said they've never turned a lap until, this week or leading up. As we watch Ryan Carwile, the number 71 machine, off track. I think, unfortunately, that's going to be his qualifying run. David Bauer also finds himself cutting some grass here in Virginia. So I don't think he's going to get another shot at it. I'm waiting to see maybe Dominic, the number 11 machine, might be able to improve on that 5th place quality just slightly as he comes out in the start-finish line. But Alex, what a wide open start-finish line. Has a bit of a kink right at the line, but it is full throttle. I mean, even before that final turn. And I think if we see big draft packs, I think if somebody's in the tail there, they might find themselves with surprise how fast they end up going into turn 1 on the brakes in these things.
Absolutely. That's where the characteristics of just about every track change. All of a sudden you come out of one corner, you find a good draft, you're entering in there 5-7 miles an hour quicker than you normally would. Well, you better really start managing your brakes going into the next one because you might overshoot your position there. And some of these guys are just starting to work out, drafting partners, and hopefully they're going to be working together now. I know we don't have a huge field tonight. We got 21 people out there. Yeah, sure, I should be out there myself, but I feel a lot more comfortable in the booth this evening. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, very glad to. Looks like qualifying starting to wrap up here. A few drivers are on their final lap, taking one final shot at improving their quality positions. But right now, it looks like it's going to be Ari Ritter, the number 27 machine, up on pole, dethroning Soto here. Now, last time we saw Soto out on track round 1, unfortunately, put into an early retirement back to the virtual hauler after an incident. So good to see Soto back out on track, home from vacation, and going to try and shake things up in the points just a little bit. And again, a reminder to the fans, Ryan Carwile currently qualified 4th, the number 71 machine, coming to tonight, a 6-point lead over Keith Dieringer. And I'm looking here, Alex, and I don't think I see Dieringer out on track either.
No, it looks like he might have chosen this to be his bye week. You know, maybe he didn't do his homework. Maybe he's home doing homework. Who knows? But again, one of the reasons I skip this track is intimidates me a little bit. It's a little on the complex side. But happy to see that at least the top 10 qualifiers, if we throw out the outlier of Aaron, the top 10 are within a second of each other. And, the following 5 or 7 are within a second of that. So we should see some good tight racing, especially for the first few laps that we get out here.
Yeah, this is going to be a good one. It looks like qualifying officially wrapped up. So yes, it is going to be Ritter, that number 27 machine in the top spot. Only took a little bit less than 7 laps to do it. So came out, completed the mission, and then put the car back behind the wall. So he obviously one of those drivers that put in his homework, and as he said, the top 15 here, really close on pace. And I think you're right. If drivers can kind of stick together and don't spend too much time early on in this event, taking jabs that aren't going to pay off, I think there's big potential for there to be a lot of drivers in the mix at the end of it. And kind of talk about drivers, I want to give a quick shout out to our fans, friends, and family tuning in, supporting the league, supporting the drivers, as well as supporting the broadcast. We've got Corey Gordonier. How do I say that, Alex? Do you know by chance?
I love to call him Corey G.
Corey G, that's the best one I've heard so far. So Corey G joining us in the Spectator, letting us know that that the rookie Global MX-5s and the production cars also at VIR this week. And then, so there's a lot of different class cars in iRacing running this week. But we've got a brief warm-up before we put our drivers out on track. So we're going to run a quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back to the action here at round 3 of the Detroit SCCA Sim Racing Series. Oh, Pearson gets it into the 95 of Folks. Here comes the caution.
Flag is dropped here at Daytona, and away we go for the first time. Nicholas Borcel, Sean.
It looks like most get through unscathed. Look at that, there's Reed Gibson. A big move at the inside line of Dom's, possibly a little bit of contact.
Now, as we've got 3 wide action going through turns 1 and 2.
And they're underway. Eric Hahn takes a nice jump. Wilson hasn't let it go very far.
Nice to go out here for circuit display Frankenstein. Alex Johnson's off to a brilliant start there.
Just how oddly shaped this one is. We saw in the background Eric Hahn go for a bit of a swing, and he's gone and he's over.
New stuff. Cody Graham's the 1-on-1 up into second place. Alex Johnson 6/10 lead at the moment.
They're dicey up front. There's Andrew Kessel, Justin Sang.
They are ready to go. The lights are out, and away we go for the very first time here at Okayama International Circuit. Finley Fitzsimmons.
Welcome back, race fans. Here, round 3, the DRSCCA. Right now, drivers out on track with a bit of an intermission, but we've got Russell Soto joining us in the booth. Russell out on track tonight, a good qualifying run for the number 50 machine. What's the expectations going into this event?
Thank you very much, James, and it's always a pleasure to be here in the booth. Love you guys at Team Goon Squad. Yeah, for sure. The expectation going in was actually that I just learned the track yesterday. I had no idea how VIR was at all, and to be here on the front row is already blowing my expectations. So if we can stick with this position or, even fight for the win, I'd be very happy.
Now, what makes VIR kind of difficult? Is it the size of it, or what makes it tough to learn on the fly?
It's definitely, in these cars, the size as well as those huge technical sections, both in Sector 1 and the final sector of the track. It's a very flowy track, but those tight bits can definitely catch you off guard, especially in these cars.
And Alex, we're joining us. I know you have ran side by side with Russell in these Spec Ford cars before. So how cool is it to see some real life driving friends out here tonight and getting to cheer them on from the broadcast booth for a change?
Oh man, I got to tell you. First of all, Russell is a fierce competitor, and he's a quick study. And seeing him running out there, especially on the on the front row, it's bringing a tear to my eye. My biggest expectation, like we were talking about in the broadcast earlier, I don't think it's going to be about lap times. It's going to be about kind of just keeping a cool head, while they're out there. So I want to know what Russell's done to prepare for that, to make sure that he knows to work with his up front guys.
I think what it comes down to in the end, when it comes to just a long race, is just keeping your cool, keeping your nose clean, and just keeping yourself mentally sharp. I mean, gotta be mentally present for all 30 minutes of this race to have a good one. So that's the plan.
Now, Russell,
Happy to hear it.
Go ahead, Alex. I'm sorry.
I was going to say I'm happy to hear that he's put some thought into that. It still cracks me up that Russell's running this Toyota livery. What's the shtick behind that?
Well, ideally a Toyota GR86. So
Okay.
I figured it's a fun livery to do, but I think for the next race, might consider something a little bit more 40 or SCCA. We'll see. We'll play around with it. It's just a temporary one for this first season.
Excellent.
Now, Russell, I've seen you in sim drive everything from open wheel cars to now the Spec Ford Racer, and I'm sure I've seen you out on an endurance race a time or two and something different. And I know the real life you've done something similar as well. Open wheel now in I think you were doing an arrive and drive in one of these Spec Fords. But what's the difference like going between those two cars on the real world, much less the sim?
Oh, it's very different. I mean, we're going from an open wheel car to a closed wheel car, both open cockpit, but that's about the only similarity. I mean, these cars drive much more different. You got to be a lot more smoother with the brake pedal and release. You got to think about a little bit more roll going through the corners. It's kind of like a Miata in a way. Whereas with the open wheel, they're a lot more aero dependent. It's a different style of driving, but I'm happy that I was able to adapt getting into these cars, both in real life and in the sim. And it's been going well so far. I'm honestly having a blast with these cars.
Now, Alex, do you have any final questions for Soto before we get ready to send him back out on track for this future event?
No, just I don't want to jinx him. I'm going to be rooting for him. So I'm hoping to have him back in the broadcast booth in about 30 minutes, and then I got a ton of questions for him.
Well, Russell, always great talking to you, buddy. We wish you the best of luck before we go out on track. And just in case things don't go perfectly for you, anybody you want to give a shout out to before this future event starts, that maybe some people behind the scenes that have been supporting you?
Absolutely. Well, the biggest shout out I want to give is to everyone in DRSCCA who's joined this league. I've put this league together myself, along with the help of Alex Stellatorre, and it's just been successful this first season. So I'd like to thank all of you guys for watching as well. Of course, my family back home in New Jersey, and Team Goon Squad for putting on an amazing broadcast. Thank you.
Russell, always a pleasure. Best of luck out on track, my friend.
You got it, man. Hope to see you soon.
Go get him.
All right, Alex, that was Russell Soto, real-life American hero. We've seen him in open wheels. We've seen him in the Spec Fords, and now we're going to see him out on track in Virginia. Such a great guy on and off the circuit.
Well, yeah, and I got to be honest with you. I gave him kudos before he got on this, and he's definitely got a volunteer spirit. You know, that's what the Detroit region and what the SCCA and Waterford Hills and MTM are all about. You know, not only does he get behind the wheel and kill it, but he's also doing so much for this. Without Russell, we would not be having this conversation right now. 21 people wouldn't be on track this weekend. You know, he took hours to put this thing together, and you can't say enough about it. He's smooth, he's efficient, and he cares. He cares enough about the community to take his own time and put this together. So that's what makes him, you know, an all-American hero.
Cool. Looking forward to seeing how he does tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for the feature event. Drivers are gridded up behind our iRacing safety car. Thankfully for the broadcaster, we're going to be doing a full lap of pacing here before we send them off, so no more abbreviated sighting laps as we roll them out. And let's go through the grid. On pole, Ari Ritter, the number 27 machine. Russell Soto, you just heard him in the booth. He's going to be starting second. David Bauer starting third. Ryan Carwile, your points leader, starting fourth. Sean Fritz starting fifth. Dominic Bates starting sixth. Trenton McMillian starting seventh. Chad Giedel starting eighth. Jason Williams starting ninth. Michael Schmidt starts 10th. Andrew Gross, who is getting some love from the fans on the broadcast side, courtesy of Jonathan Gross, he'll be starting 11th. Mike Knudsen starting 12th. And let's cycle it on back to Mr. Logan McDonough starting 13th. Jacob Blanchard starting 14th. Adam Smith starts 15th. Da Chang starting 16th. Chris Satterley starting 17th. David Grzinski starts 18th. Nathan Crossy starting 19th. Michael Rodriguez starting 20th. And Jonathan Edwards will round out our 21-car grid here today. Alex, these drivers have one final time to kind of scope out the track, and then we're going to get them right back out there, and it's going to be a great race here at Virginia.
Yeah, what a good-looking field this is, man. These cars, the liveries that they've chosen, you know, as much as I can also appreciate mixed class racing, you know, talk about a purpose-built race car that the SCCA put together back in the 80s. And, you know, Roush did a conversion package into these, you know, back in the early 90s. And most recently, this generation that's been updated to 1.6 liters with sequential 6-speed SAE transmissions, that it really makes racing as fair as it possibly can be. These are sealed engines, 135 horsepower. And it's all about the setup, and it's all about the driver. You know, you can't really ask for a better class. It's truly about the driver, and we're about to see what these guys can do.
Well, it's going to be cool to see what they can do. We got about a half lap left to go here. And again, I want to give a shout out to the Detroit Region Sports Car Club of America. They've been providing motorsports events since 1948. With over 1,400 members, there is no shortage of knowledge, history, and trailblazing ideas that you can find in this sim league. Free to join, so check them out. As always, thank you to participants and spectators for being part and continue to augmentate and evolve the region and mix that blend between real life and sim racing. Check out DRSCCA.org for more information. And Alex, how can we forget our sponsors? Without those guys, this league would not be possible without the support of the DRSCCA. Additionally, Waterford Hills Road Racing, Metro Detroit's only permanent sanctioned road course. Located in Clarkston, Michigan, they host a 6-weekend race series, competition driving school, and 9 public open track days where you can join them out on the surface. Track is hot from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. on the event days and is open to the public for only a whopping $5, cheaper than a cup of coffee. So check them out, waterfordhills.com, all the details. We also have the Michigan Turn Marshals, their support as well, extremely appreciated. If you want to get close to the action, be sure to check out MichiganTurnMarshals.org, and they can train you to support races just like the Detroit Grand Prix. And finally, a thank you to the volunteers that make this all possible. And Alex, we are Green Flag Racing here in Virginia.
Let's do this. I've always wanted to say it, so I'm going to say boogity, boogity, boogity. Let's see how well these guys are going to do side by side going into turn 1. Turn 2, let's see as the field spreads out here. Looking to see who those mature drivers are.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be Soto in the top spot, taking it over the number 50 machine. Ritter falling back to second, but right there in the toe, you've also got Bauer, Carwile, Fritz, Bates. A very tight pack here as they get ready to hit the chicane, go underneath the bridge, and it's going to be a lot of wide open action here. Now, Alex, did you have the chance to turn any practice laps here tonight, or did you just get to watch and say, you know what, that's enough for me?
No practice laps for me. I'm preparing for a lot of meetings that are coming up with the SCCA and with the Formula SAE local chapters as well. This guy spread himself a little bit too thin and thought, well, I don't want to totally get in the way of these folks. So wrenching on some other cars today as well. So I've got to divide my time this week.
Yeah, that whole real life thing kind of gets in the way of our racing sometimes.
It sure does. It sure does. But I'm telling you, I'm still trying to wrap my head around this. I tell some of my gray hair brethren and sisters out here, just the benefits to sim racing, even again, the broadcast, the iRacing software, how you can watch an in-car from a car from a driver that you love. You can't do that in real life. This virtual world is pretty mind-blowing all on its own. So we encourage people to participate not only behind the wheel, but on the spectating side of things, right? The more we get, the better fans we're going to have, especially, and then we can get them to come out at the track too. Look at this,
like we're three wide action into turn one. Driver squarely in the vortex of danger. Somebody overcooks it. That's going to be Sean Fritz off track, getting the worst end of the deal. That number 9 machine, as he drops back to looks to be about the 13th place spot. Dominic Bates, the number 11 machine, comes through that one nice and smooth. And the green and red and black flame painted number 11 machine. Now up front, it's still Soto, Ritter, and Bauer, who have quite a breakaway from this pack. And it looks like Bates going to break away as well. And Trenton McMillian going to lead a pretty sharp freight train right behind him. As these guys run nose to tail, not able to break away, but not often I get to call 3 wide action at VIR, so this is going to be a great race if this is how things continue.
Absolutely. The best thing we can hope for is that they keep things clean out there. And we've got such a great blend of different driving talent out there. We have Sean Fritz. We know he went off track a little bit there, but a great autocrosser, very competitive here in the Detroit region. We got in P3, David Bauer. He is a diehard sim racer, phenomenal photographer, content creator, videographer as well, just laying down some blazing fast times. And it's just unbelievable the variety and talent and background that all of these folks have.
Yeah, very diverse field as we watch Blanchard and Knudsen side by side right behind them. That was that 3-car battle between Smith, Williams, and Fritz. So these long drafting sections at Virginia lending themselves to some pretty interesting racecraft strategies being developed. And we've also got Richard Scheibe joining us in the spectator area. Another driver we were hoping to see out on track, had to sit this week out, but hopefully we'll see him in the future. And man, look at this up front, a 3-car battle for the lead. Soto, Bauer, and Ritter throwing haymakers at each other. Bauer's going to take over the 2nd place spot. Ritter falls back to 3rd, but not a bad spot to be in as Soto and Bauer still side by side. We're only 3 laps into this 30-minute feature, and we've already seen some great moves being made.
Man, there's some emotions flaring up there in the front row right now. I've just got my fingers crossed that these guys are going to be smart about it and keep working with each other because, that second pack is not far behind, and they can come up there at any second. So let's hope that they keep it clean up front.
Yeah, if I was a wagering man, I would think Carwile, Bates, and the drivers behind these top 3 are going to kind of get a glimpse of what's happening at the front and say, all right, guys, let's work together here a little bit, see if we can pull ourselves and whittle away at that 2-second deficit. Now, conversely, if Soto, Bauer, and Ritter start to work together, no, is that Ritter holds on to it? No, that was Bauer. The number 10 machine almost throws it away there through the oak tree corner. I guess the former oak tree corner. Gone but not forgotten. But, man, what a huge save for that number 10.
Yeah, you know, how much of that is the driver getting in his head and how much of that is tires? You know, it's hard to say. Where's he keeping his eyes? You know, is he getting a little anxious on that? You know, the fatigue, too, is real in sim racing. That's what some of the, you know, some of the real life folks are having a difficult time understanding as well, that this concentration fatigue and the visual fatigue is real as well. You know, you let up on concentration for a second, and you're going to pull a mistake like Bauer just did and finds himself in 5th spot right now.
Alex, we did have a crash report. It's going to be Jonathan Edwards, the number 20 machine, the bright blue and green. Let's see what happens. It looks like it's going to be a solo incident. Pushes a little bit wide, catches the dirt, and around he goes. But we've had another incident reported. Trying to find it really quickly. It's going to be Russell Soto, the 50. Finds himself off track. Let's see what happened to Soto there. Does he get a little bit of help, I wonder?
Let's hope not.
No, just loses the back end, and around he goes.
Oh, is he looking at his rear views? A little bit too much trailing throttle, oversteer there. Kind of similar to what happened to Edwards there.
David Bauer's off track. So apparently 7 minutes in, this is where things start getting a little bit out of hand for the drivers. So that's going to give Ritter back to the race lead. Ryan Carwile has moved up to second. Trenton McMillian now finds himself sitting in a podium spot in the number 18.
You know, you were talking about Richard Scheib, you know, here spectating, you know, another working stiff. Guy probably got off work a little bit late. Probably wishing he was on here. He might be in the top 10 right now, especially with some of this temporary attrition that's happening right now. Shout out to you, Richard. Schedule your days so we can get you out there racing.
Yeah, racing comes first. Everybody knows that.
That's right.
Oh, we got great battles all over the track here. We've got Soto, Gross, and Schmidt, a 3-car battle for 4th. McMillian has worked that number 18 machine up into 2nd using the draft in his favor. Carwile is going to fall back to 3rd in the 71. We've also got Sean joining the spectator area. He's cheering on Chad G in that 42 machine. Chad down 4 spots, currently sitting 12th on the circuit, but we've seen so many solo incidents already here tonight. I mean, I can't imagine anybody is truly down and out of this thing until the checkered is out. We're not even a third of the way through this feature event, and we've already seen some odds-on favorite working their way down the wrong side of the leaderboard.
Absolutely. You know, that's one of the things that I absolutely love about this sport. It's you can watch a person, you know, lose it themselves, get in their own head, drop back, and let's see what kind of concentration and focus and determination that they can use to bring it back. You know, they can run those front packs down, but they get in their head a little bit too much. It's almost like you're seeing an emotional, mental struggle going on.
Yeah, the old racer red mist happens to real-life drivers and esports enthusiasts as well. And I want to give a quick shout-out and a point of note to Andrew Gross, running the student driver livery on the number 69 machine. I've got to say, that might be one of my favorite paints I've seen here for this series. That is the racer's humor there in the 69, so good to see him kind of hamming it up with the paint scheme. And for a student driver, still up 4 spots, qualified 11th, has worked his way up into 7th. So having a great run. Looked like Jacob Blanchard with an off-track excursion in the number 21 is going to be able to rejoin here, not losing too much ground, falling back to 11th. But man, it's action all over the course here.
And a little bit of backstory on Andrew Gross. I mean, a couple of hours ago on Discord, it sounded like he wasn't going to race. He was out snowboarding last weekend and he hurt his shoulder. He'd actually offered to come into the broadcast booth, and I think from the sheer rejection of saying we've got it covered this time around, next thing you know, he's out there practicing, asking the guys on track, hey, how do I reduce the the force feedback so I don't mess up my shoulder? And look at him now, not giving up. He's in 7th spot.
That ties right back into what you said earlier on in the show. Ooh, look at the bump drafting there between Carlisle and McMillian. It always cracks me up when I see that in these Spec Ford drivers trying to do anything they can to push themselves towards the front. But we talked about how there is definitely a physical attrition that comes to sim racing. I've done a little bit of endurance racing on iRacing. I don't have a very powerful wheel. It's not going to jerk my arms out or anything, but after 30 minutes to an hour sitting in sim, it is mentally and physically taxing more than you would think. So to the fans at home that are hearing about turning the force feedback down, what Gross was asking the drivers for is, how do I get less feedback from my wheel where I don't have to put basically as much strength into it to turn that wheel and make something happen? And that's going to hopefully save his shoulder a little bit. So well done to him, driving through a bit of adversity here and coming out and still getting some points in the student driver back 69 machine, because that cannot be a comfortable experience riding with an injury and still putting down fast lap times.
Agreed. And it's this year I made an upgrade. So I thought from a Logitech G27 to a Fanatec CSL Elite wheel. And, as much as I get more realistic feedback, I don't know if I like all the additional force that I've got to contend with. I certainly get a lot more tired when I'm driving this thing now than sometimes when I'm driving the real spec racer Ford. It's a workout.
Yeah, especially if you find yourself locked in a room during an endurance stint, no air conditioning, no fan or something, and it can quickly become a long day of racing. And we keep talking about Gross, but it looks like he was putting the pressure there on Bates, that number 11 machine. That is going to be the battle for 7th. Somebody just spun out behind them, though. That was Jacob Blanchard looking for a way to rejoin here, that number 21. And that's another great part about calling a race that's intertwined with real life and sim racers is everybody knows the rules on track. And I've seen all these drivers, if they're involved in an incident, do a great job holding on to the brake until they can figure out their surroundings. And as we've seen already at VIR, trying to quickly get off the racing line if they're involved in some sort of incident. So really cool to see the racecraft in play here.
Absolutely. And to tie back into something you said earlier about Ritter and McMillan, the bump draft is real in these spec racers. In a couple of the rear frame posts, they'll put little bushings on there, which is kind of like we welcome a little bit of bump drafting. That way you don't damage the body work and you don't damage the framework, but you can push, gingerly along the way. It's almost as exciting as the Spec Miata bump drafting, and believe it or not, also the Formula V bump drafting. There's contact there to push each other down the long straights.
Now, I knew about the Spec Miatas from watching them race at Daytona, where race control gave them a little bit of a slap on the wrist and said, stop doing that at one of the IMSA rounds. But did not know about the Formula V, and super cool. I saw it for the first time at Road Atlanta last week with these drivers, and I kept cracking up over it, and they are really leaning into it here. I mean, Carlisle is pushing McMillian down the straights. They are doing everything they can. Ritter holds a 5-second gap for the rest of the field. Now, we knew that number 27 machine was coming to this main event very, very fast, but, I mean, he is putting down heaters of a lap times. And we did have another crash report. Looks like that's going to be Satterley, the number 17 machine. Is it going to be another driver losing the rear end and pushing wide? Yes, it is. Little bit too much on the brakes, unloads the rear, and around goes Chris in that 17.
And if I'm not mistaken, the Satterley family, famous family in the Formula V realm. These guys, it's a father and son and uncle and nephew team that gets out there. In any given weekend, there's a Satterley out there running a Formula V.
Now, Alex Soto has just made it a 2-for-1 and made his way up into second. But I want to point something out. Let's see if we can get it on camera here. Ryan Carwile has a smashed front end on that 71 machine. I think I can get a camera angle. We're going to go on the gearbox here, a McMillian. Yeah, there's a bird's eye view. You can't get much closer than that. The 71 has been pushing, and I mean, that front end is just beat up.
Oh, yeah. It looks like, unfortunately, hopefully it doesn't have a toe issue. Both of those front wheels look like they were pretty far on the toe out, but I don't think he'd be able to hang if he had that bad of a toe. Man, it'd be great if we could see what had happened there, what caused that. Hopefully it was nothing with Russell's 2 for pass.
No, there was nothing that I saw on the crash report. Let's check it out. Let's pan over to Russell Soto. This is going to be the pass. No, I mean, even before that, I just saw it slightly. The front end's damage on the 71. I almost wonder, has he been pushing too hard and might have damaged the bodywork there with the bump drafting?
Well, so first of all, it looks like a pug dog to me.
It does. It's sad.
But if you notice a couple of things about these cars, the way that they are designed, it's one wedge that fits into another wedge, and they tuck in very well with each other. So almost as if they were designed to be able to pump draft to each other. And true to life, if you are on a long straight, that nose piece can melt if it's too close to the exhaust for a long time of the driver that's in front. So, I don't know if there was a little bit of bumping going on, but those two, you couldn't put a piece of paper between the two of them. So there's definitely some of that melting action as you just showed that was probably going on.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully for Carwile, it doesn't look like he's lost any pace at all. And that might be due to being able to tuck in behind McMillian's gearbox right off the muffler. And for a moment there, third and fourth place, McMillian and Carwile were tracking back down Soto in second. But Soto's got an uphill battle here. We're past the halfway mark. Drivers have already been displayed the cross green and white flags. And Soto is currently 5.9 seconds back from Ritter, the race leader. That is going to be a huge deficit to overcome here, barring any mistakes out of that race leader. I mean, Ritter qualified on pole. He's been leading just about every lap here after Soto's incident. That is a tough task for Soto.
Well, Soto's definitely got an appetite. This is talk about that focus and concentration. That's a man there that's not going to give up. Best thing that he could do is try to get McMillan to follow him throughout. But then, Carwile is going to lose his, he's going to lose his draft. And he might have some issues, too, with that damage that he's got on the front end. So, I'm sure Soto's looking in his rearview mirror trying to figure out, do I wait for McMillan and see if we can work together, or he's just going to be a solo man on a mission trying to track down Reuter.
Yeah, that's going to be a tough ask. I mean, I think Carwile, I don't know how much the front end damage is really going to affect his pace, but he might be in a position where he can't get around McMillian on the straights here. As soon as he hops out the draft, it could be acting like a parachute on that 71 machine. So it might be in his best interest to stay tucked in as long as he can. You saw him briefly take a peek to the inside line of McMillian and then back right behind the number 18 machine. And they are keeping Soto just about a half second ahead of them here. So running very, very well, but I don't know how many big plays can be made here if he's running with front end damage.
Yeah, and I agree. This is a great opportunity for Carwile and McMillan to work with each other. It's just going to be kind of sad too, because Soto needs somebody that's got a little bit more pace that he could use to catch Reuter. Otherwise, he's just going to have to drive, try to catch that machine. Reuter is an absolute, he's putting on a clinic right now. He's not making any mistakes. He's throwing down good, consistent laps. And as long as he keeps doing that, he's going to be able to keep that gap between him and Soto.
And especially, I think, with the tire wear starting to become a factor about 20 minutes in, looks like the lap times have fallen off about a little bit over a second from their fastest laps of the race. So tire wear definitely a factor. I mean, that's even for Reuter, the 27, the race leader. He's out there in no man's land, so he's not really having to race other drivers that can be slowing the pace down. It's just naturally starting to fall down ever so slightly, and something is going on. Oh, we're about to see something happen. McMillian and Carwile trying to set up against Soto. They closed the gap to less than a tenth, but unfortunately another crash report, and it's going to be Chad G in that 42 machine finds himself with some sort of problem. Oh, it's going to be the same spot, Alex, through Oak Tree.
Yeah, looks like that's, you know, sometimes it's those slower corners that get you. A little bit, looks like people are getting on throttle a little bit too early coming out of that corner. But we do have a variable coming up here. Probably I'm gonna forecast in 5 or 7 laps. We're gonna start hitting some of these some of this lap traffic, and that might give, depending on where it happens, that might give Soto an opportunity to catch up to Reuter. And depending on where McMillan and Carwile at, they might be able to come up there too.
We're on board with Ryan Carwile in that 71. Qualified for, still running strong in the 4th place spot. Flicking that machine around behind McMillan. And Soto doing everything he can to shake off these 2 drivers behind him. Because, as you said, they have yet to really gain any ground on the race leader. Soto wants to get out there and try and battle against Reuter, and he definitely doesn't want it to be a 3-car battle for second. He wants to shake these guys off and see if he can put a little bit of breathing room, but with no draft support for Soto, that's going to be a big ask. I mean, with McMillan and Carwile pushing that air together, even with Carwile's damage, they've been consistently able to close the gap to Soto on some of the big straights here at Virginia and track him back down. And I'm almost curious, it seems like McMillan and Carwile just maybe not even a tenth, 2 tenths off the pace of Soto over the course of a lap, but aren't able to link up nose to tail like you'd see in a an oval race and really work a 3-car draft to try and get some momentum here.
So I kind of feel like we're trying to watch water boil at this point. Maybe if we pan away, there's a couple of other good races going on. You know, Andrew Gross and Logan McDonough are, they're tight. Also with Adam Smith, the 9th, 10th, 11th position. Let's check out what those guys are doing, because there's, you could throw a blanket over them, less than a second separating them. Let's see how they're chasing each other down.
Yeah, on camera, Logan McDonough, he's up 3 spots in the 32. Gross still running a strong 9th with Adam Smith. He's up 4 spots into the 11th place position in that number 15 machine. And, I mean, you and I both have a bunch of on-track experience, and we know very well there's just something about having that carrot to chase ahead of you, that you can see another driver or racer ahead of you that somehow magically helps you find a 10th here, a 10th there, and close that gap and get back into the action, as it looks like Logan McDonough has a big run here, catching up to Andrew Gross. Looks like Gross is going to hold about 3-4 car lengths through turn 1, and I wonder if Adam Smith is going to be able to capitalize as these two start to battle.
He pulls up side by side next to him, but he's not able to make it stick. Let's see if he can set himself up.
Oh, no!
Oh!
The commentator's curse strikes once more.
Get back in there. He got a little bit too excited with that, getting that bone in his mouth. Now he's got to work himself way back up. He's got to get through Adam Smith to get back up to Gross, but Adam Smith, well deserved. He got through clean with Logan coming off track. Let's see what they can do here.
They're going to go side by side once more. Smith tucks in as McDonough takes back over the 10th place spot. They haven't really lost too much time here to Gross after that off-track excursion. Still about 6-7 tenths behind that 9th place driver. And I do appreciate that the drivers and the spectator of the broadcast, everybody that's driven a car, raced a motorcycle, I think he immediately knew what we were talking about. We were talking about chasing the rabbit or having that carrot in front of you for a little extra motivation.
Absolutely. There's just something about that guy in front of you. You can say to yourself, well, he made it through that corner at this pace, so I can do it, and you've got a higher level of comfort in doing so.
Yeah, I've done that once. Turn 1, Road Atlanta, followed somebody else in there and said, you know what, we're all on the same equipment. I can make that corner. And then I felt my front suspension bottom out, the front end tucked, and I thought to myself, maybe not.
So let's see what McDonough's going to do here. You know, it's always interesting. Is he ready to be the leader to set the pace? Or is he going to be better off staying tucked in behind Gross for a while and working together? But no, it looks like he gets a good clean pass on him. Is he going to be able to hold it going into he's able to keep it clean.
I saw a little bit of smoke out of Andrew Gross's tires. Looked like Adam Smith pushed wide there. He went off track. Gross going to hold on? No, he's not. As McDonough fires a shot across the bow once more. These guys are battling for ninth, but man, Alex, what a great show these two are putting on. And we've got less than 5 minutes left, and around goes McDonough.
A little bit of trailing throttle.
Oh, and pulls onto a hot track. Goodness.
Oh, yeah, boy, he almost really slammed it to Smith there, but it's all right. We'll get him back out there. You know, Logan is a fantastic young man coming to us from the karting world as well. So used to a lot of dicing and you know, going wheel to wheel with individuals here. To your point, could have used a little bit more prudency in re-entering the track there, though.
Yeah, a white knuckle moment. We've panned the camera back up to 6th. We've got Mike Knutson, David Bauer side by side here, a great battle, and that's been the story all night here at VIR. Everywhere we look, there's been great battles. I mean, frequently on the live timing tower, you see at least 3 pairs of drivers at a time, if not more, less than a 1/10 of a second between each other. As Knutson up into 6th place, looks like he's going to hold it here, but I don't think David Bauer is going to let him go easy in that number 10. He is right back on the tail end of that 383, and I think these guys know there's only a few minutes left in this feature, and if they're going to get something going, they've got to make it happen very, very soon.
Well, you know, sometimes all you need is that last corner, right? What I always like to preach to others if they listen, and I definitely tell myself this, you know, you got to have the situational awareness of where you are in a race. You know, we'll take Knutson and Bauer here, for example. You know, they're 16 seconds plus behind the next pack. So they're basically going to race each other. At this point, I'd be happy staying behind, sizing up my competitor, learning the pros and cons, the strengths and weaknesses, and working with that setup on that final lap. You know, keep it to that. Don't take yourself out beforehand.
Now, Shivey let us know as well. No, excuse me, Corey G let us know Ryan Carlisle was able to work his way up into 3rd ahead of McMillian and has tracked down Soto within 0.3 of a second. So the front end damage not playing too strongly against Carlisle here. Finds himself in that final podium spot. Now, I think we're going to do one more lap here before the white flag comes out. I don't think Reuter is going to hit the white flag as he's got a quarter of the racetrack left to go here. So I think these drivers know they've got about 2 more laps left here at VIR. And, you know, we say it all the way, especially on draft heavy tracks, sometimes you don't want to be the lead driver in a pack on that final lap. Sometimes it might be a better spot for, you know, somebody like Carlisle or McMillian who might be able to work the draft in those final couple of straightaways and try and sneak away a spot at the end and not leave your opponent any time to fight back.
Yeah, agreed. I think Carlisle was, you know, leaving the old proverbial gas in the tank, recognizing maybe there's only a couple laps left and it's time to push, see how far ahead he can get. You know, with this new aero design that he's got on that nose, maybe.
Oh, no, and a mistake for McMillian. Sorry to cut you off, Alex. McMillian pushes wide in 1, and that might leave it as a 2-car shootout for second. Soto versus Carlisle.
This might be the you know, one of the most exciting things we got going on the track right now. We do have Gross and Williams trying to fight for it as well, and Logan and Adam Smith going for it. But let's try to toggle around as much as possible because these guys are all nose to tail battles with each other.
Yeah, Smith trying to work around McDonough here using the draft. It's going to be a battle of brakes into turn 1. Oh, Smith had to check up heavy there to avoid getting to McDonough. Looked like McDonough pushed a little bit wide through 1. I didn't see any lockups up on the front, but definitely maybe overextended the braking mark than what he was expecting, trying to beat Smith on the brakes, and that's kind of a racer rule as well. If you're trying to outbrake the guy next to you, there's nothing to stop him from trying to outbrake you, and that's a very quick way to find yourself both going off track.
The good game of chicken is what they call it.
Now, Jason Williams, Andrew Gross, they're still going at it as well, Alex, but I'm going to go, sorry, up front.
Carwile takes a photo.
Yeah, you saw it at the same time I did, and they're bumping and grinding here. Soto's off track, pushes wide.
Oh,
ooh, Carwile into second. Let's see if there's going to be a little bit of payback, but I don't think we're going to get the white flag here, Alex. I think next time, as Ritter, yes, Ritter takes the checkered here at VIR. He's going to pick up the win.
well-deserved win at that. It looks like Carwile and Soto had a little bit of contact that may have caused the off track there. You know, I'd call it a racing incident if anything. But it's you know, luckily we'll still see Soto on the podium. Probably not the position he wanted to be in. That young man's never happy with anything other than P1.
We're going to try and get these drivers up here to victory lane following a wild race. Man, Alex, 30 minutes has never went by so quickly at a track. I mean, as you said, everywhere we panned a camera, it didn't matter if it was the battle for second. We had battles for 5th and 6th. We had battles for the top 10. We had guys going at it all across the circuit here tonight.
Absolutely, even down to 18th and 19th spot. You know, De Chang and Chris Satterley nose to tail. And I think Satterley got him in the end, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, they're still racing. They've got a quarter of a lap left to go here. Satterley pulled about a 4/10 gap over Chang. And yeah, oh, I think I just saw Chang go off track as well.
That's something I would do. I could sit back and chuckle at this point. Glad not to be the guy out there making that one final mistake that, you know, you're out there taking your final breath thinking you can grab it, and you might just have to go home with the position that you earned.
Yeah, sometimes that's racing, I guess. Looks like we've got all the drivers have crossed the start-finish line, and we're starting to get some drivers up here to victory lane, so we're going to get the podium interviews going. I'll be asking a question, Alex will be asking a question, and then I will send them on their cheerful way. Up first, we're going to get Mr. Russell Soto, the number 50 machine. Russell, we talked to you during the warm-up, and we get to talk to you again here tonight.
Yeah, it's absolutely great to always be on the podium.
Welcome back. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Now, Russell, walk us through that final lap, if you don't mind. There's a little bumping and grinding going on there, but it looked like relatively great racing between you and Carwile.
Yeah, it seemed like it came down to the wire on that last lap. Unfortunately, I made a mistake going into turn 1. I think turn 1 of this track was always a pretty shaky corner for me. I mean, I'm still happy with my performance given that I didn't know a single corner of the track yesterday morning. Yeah, I mean, me and Ryan had a good battle towards the end there. It seemed like just a huge racing incident coming into that last sector. His front right just barely touching my rear left as we go into the corner set me off course.
Alex, what do you have for Mr. Soto?
You know, Russell, I'm proud of you, you know, coming back up here. You definitely played the cool game. And for a while there, you know, what were you thinking when you knew without a partner you weren't going to be able to catch Aaron Reuter? You were trying your hardest, but it was too hard for you to close that gap. What were you thinking?
Yeah, absolutely. The entire time, especially after I spun into turn 1, I just kept I just kept my head down, just kept trying to grind those laps up as much as I could. I knew that I spun, but I knew that it wasn't over until the end. So I kept pushing, giving it my best, and I'm pretty happy with how I performed.
Well, Russell, it's always great having you up here in the booth. Even cooler when it's back in a podium spot. Before I let you go and unwind and plug in some points for tonight's race, who do you want to give a shout to that helps make this podium possible for you?
love to give a shout out to the DRSCCA, Michigan Turn Marshals, as well as Waterford Racing School and the Waterford Road Racing Track out here up in Michigan. It's just a great track, great community. I know because I just entered the Detroit region about a year and a half ago. From firsthand experience, there's a great group of guys. Love racing with them both on the real racetrack as well as the virtual one. And I'd love to give a shout out to Team Coon Squad, of course, Alex Del Torre for being a great helping hand and running this league, and just overall, all the racers here tonight. It was a great experience.
Awesome. Soto, well said as always, bud. Couldn't do it better myself. Great to have you back up here, and hopefully we have you up here for the final remaining rounds as well.
Thank you very much, James.
Thank you for everything, Russell.
Thank you, Alex.
That was Russell Soto bringing it home in the number 3 spot. Up next, we have Mr. Ryan Carwile join us. Ryan came into tonight as the points leader, secured a second here tonight. A little bit of damage on the front of the 71, but all in all, what a great race here.
Yeah, that I was a little bit worried when I got that front end damage. I think I lost a little bit of top end speed, but with the draft, I was just kind of able to hang on and stay in it. Without the draft, I think I would have been kind of screwed.
Yeah, we think you played that pretty wisely. You know, you used McMillan for, probably a good 3/4 of the race. You know, you almost didn't need that top end speed in that draft. But tell us a little bit about what made you want to pop out and chase down Soto. And
Well, Trevor made a mistake, and I was like, I gotta at least try to get up to Soto. So, because he was getting away a little bit, so I was just scared we were both gonna lose the draft. So I feel like I had to pop out and try. I mean, it was only like a couple laps left at that point.
well, it paid off, that's for sure. So I noticed on your bio you are originally from Richmond, Virginia. You think that that helped out a little bit, at least being from the same place the track is from?
Yeah, I think it helps out a little bit. I was on this track 14 years ago in like a Lexus ES300 doing parade laps, but that was a long time ago, and that was parade laps. But maybe it helped.
Well, Ryan, a great race tonight. Again, you came in with the points lead, a solid finish here at VIR. Before I let you go and unwind from this, it was a bit of a grueling night, but who do you want to give a shout to that helps put you up in the second place spot?
I'll give a shout out to the admins for putting together the league. Really fun group of guys.
Awesome, Ryan. Very well said. Thanks for having you back up here. Cool to see you make something happen here in the 71, and we hope to see you in the final races of the season as well.
Thank you.
Yeah. Ryan, will we be seeing you at Mid Ohio next week?
Yes.
Fantastic. Looking forward to it. Thanks for everything.
Thanks.
All right, Alex, that was Ryan Carwile bringing it home in the second place spot. But up next, the man, the myth, the legend, Ari, welcome to the top spot in that number 27 machine, and doing so in a dominant fashion here in Virginia.
Thanks. It was a really fun one.
You pretty much ran away with it. We talked about the people that are going to keep the focus and not make mistakes. How'd you prepare for this race?
Yeah, a lot of my practice this week was just running lap after lap on greasy track setups and like worn out tires, trying to just keep it on course while still keeping consistent. I just wanted to keep it in the mid 204s, just under the worst conditions possible, and I guess it paid off.
Talk about a pro.
Go
right
ahead,
there.
Alex. No, you're good.
No, I was just saying, talk about a pro tip right there. Going out on some old tires. That way, when you get a little bit on the sticker side, you're going to find more grip.
Now, Ari, you came into tonight, you qualified in pole, you led pretty much most of the race when you and Soto had that battle that finished up. Now, was there any moments at some point that you were thinking, hey, these guys might behind me start working together to try and close that gap? Or were you feeling pretty good when you got that 3, 4, 5 second advantage over the rest of the field?
Yeah, that was definitely in the back of my mind the whole time. Just looking at the relative every now and again, it would close up to maybe 4.5 or something, and I'd get kind of worried, but I just didn't want to look at it. I just wanted to keep my head down and keep my laps going. try not to think about it.
Well, great job out there tonight. A dominant performance in you and that number 27 machine. Before I let you go, you've got the privilege, the pleasure, the final send-offs of the night. Who do you want to give a shout to that helps make this win possible for you?
All right, just all the great folks at DRSCCA that put on this league. Russell, Alex, all the great guys. People who put on practice sessions during the week. They really help out, especially with getting packed practice. And then just everyone who keeps me propped up in racing in real life. My dad, my family, all the people who help with the cars, everything like that. Maybe people who are watching. Yeah, just a great night, great season so far. Hope we can keep it up.
Thank you, Ari.
We
hope
every time.
Yeah, we hope to see you at Mid-Ohio next week, and we hope to see you out at Waterford Hills as well.
All right, thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Alex, what a race. We had Reuter in the top spot. We had Carwile with a damaged nose in the 71 in second, and Soto getting the podium. I can't ask for a better race here at the DRSCCA Sim Racing League.
No, it was fantastic. It was true to real life racing. We had packs out there. We had great racing amongst those packs. We had a good amount of, having to fight back for it. Other than, Aaron really putting on a clinic out there, and he gave us all a tip on how he trained throughout. I'm hoping that Mid-Ohio is going to be something similar to this, even though it's a lot tighter course, and it's not so much about drafting as it is being able to handle yourself through the corners. So we're looking forward to that one.
Well, what a great night all the way. A pleasure having you up in the booth. And again, thanks to our sponsors, the DRSCCA, our friends over at the Michigan Turn Marshals, all the volunteers in the Detroit region, and of course, our friends over at Waterford Hills Raceway coming out supporting the blend between real life racing and sim racing. Alex, again, it was a pleasure having you up in the booth. A great night all the way around.
Thank you very much, James. It's a pleasure. Hopefully my first time up at the booth, so hopefully I didn't botch it up too much. And next week I'll be back on track.
Awesome. Looking forward to it. Thank you again to our fans, friends, and family tuning in, supporting the drivers, supporting the league, as well as supporting the broadcast. Check it out, drscca.org. And on behalf of Team Goon Squad Broadcasting, my name is James East, accompanied by the world-famous Alex Delatorre. Thank you all so much for spending your Tuesday night with us, and we'll see you at the next one. Have a great night, everybody.